Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ijoma Onyato.
Hello and welcome. Comptroller General of Customs Service Hamid Ali warns that recently signed WTO agreement and Africa Free Trade Agreement would adversely affect the country's revenue generation drive in the coming years. Federal government approves 13.3 billion naira for the takeoff of community policing initiative across the country. Number of COVID-19 cases in Nigeria passes the 50,000 mark, with many health workers among the casualties. And Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny remains unconscious in hospital, suffering from suspected poisoning at an airport cafe. Plus, we'll have business, sports, and later on news from our studios in London.
And on business news tonight, Nigeria's National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) targets 19 trillion naira revenue in 3 years.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria's men's senior basketball team, the Tigers, begin their qualification campaign for the 2021 FIBA Afrobasket in November at the Kigali Arena in Rwanda.
Almost 6 months after Nigeria recorded its first case of COVID-19, the country has now crossed the 50,000 mark, and that's according to the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. And after several years of debate on the desirability or otherwise of community policing, the federal government, through the National Economic Council, has finally given its commitment to 13 billion naira for the takeoff of that scheme. And as the government continues with efforts to flatten the COVID-19 curve and at the same time improve the economy, the nation's customs boss Hamid Ali has alerted on what he believes are danger signals in some international arrangements and agreements the country has entered into, which, if not reviewed, may affect the country's revenue. And we begin from that approval from the takeoff of community policing, where the federal government has approved the sum of 13.3 billion naira for the takeoff of community policing initiative across the country. And as part of measures to consolidate efforts aimed at addressing the security situation in the country, that decision was taken today at the virtual meeting of the National Economic Council.
The 95th National Economic Council meeting held on Thursday, 20th of June 2019, the National Economic and Prudential Security Advisor made a presentation on the security situation in the country. Council resolved that the chair of the NGL, with two other governors, will be meeting the SGL, the finance minister, as well as the inspector general of police, to coordinate the proper utilization of the funding for the community policing in the states. And the federal government has already approved 13 billion naira for this purpose, to be used for community policing in Nigeria. All states have submitted their IAP, that is the Incident Action Plan. 35 states have been cleared by November. 22 have signed the agreement for the grant, and 13 states are yet to return the agreement so far. 22 states also signed the general agreement, that is Ekiti, Gombe, Fara, Sokoto, Niger, Taraba, Oyo, Abia, Enugu, Plateau, Delta, Bauchi, Ebonyi, Kaduna, Kwara, Cross River, Imo, Yobe, Ondo, Osun, Nasarawa, and Benue. Of the 22 states, 16 have received 100 million naira grant. 5 out of the states so far are yet to receive their payment. Plateau, Yobe, Ondo, Benue, and Osun, with one state, Nasarawa, that is here to communicate the details of their accounts.
The federal government has approved the sum of 13.3 billion naira for the takeoff of community policing initiatives across the country. and as part of measures to consolidate efforts aimed at addressing the security situation in the country. Now, the decision was taken today at the virtual meeting of the National Economic Council, as we reported earlier. Along with updates on flood disaster, the management for 2020, and the grassroots engagement in the fight against COVID-19, especially in the rural areas, the Council was also briefed on the Regional Disease Surveillance System Enhancement Project that's funded by the World Bank. To security, where at least 8 members of the Boko Haram group have been killed as military troops foiled an attempt by Boko Haram terrorists to scuttle the resettlement of Kukawa community in Borno. And that's according to the coordinator of the Defense Media Operations, Major General John Eneche. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, General Eneche adds that the 3 soldiers were killed in the attack, while 2 others sustained various degrees of injuries. He also explains that calm has returned to the community. And at least 11 people have reportedly been killed following fresh attacks by gunmen at Ongwa Gankon village in Zangon Kataf and Maro village in Kajuru local government areas of Kaduna State. The attacks, which occurred between Monday and Wednesday, come barely 1 week after the Defense Headquarters deployed special forces to southern Kaduna to curb the spate of killings in the volatile region. Although police authorities are yet to confirm the incident, the chairman of Zango Kataf local government area, Elias Manza, describes the attack as reprisals by a suspected Fulani militia who invaded Ungwan Gankon community on Tuesday. He also confirmed that special forces of the Nigerian Army and Air Force have arrived in some of the vulnerable communities to protect the residents from attacks by bandits. In Kajuru local government, the chairman of the council also confirmed that gunmen killed 4 people who were traveling in a commercial vehicle at Maro village, a border between Kajuru and Kachia local government areas. In the meantime, a manhunt has been launched by the Oyo State government for a suspected serial killer, 19-year-old Sunday Shodikbe, who escaped from police custody last Tuesday. The suspect, who is facing trial for a series of murders he allegedly committed within Akinyele local government areas, was said to have escaped from the police station where he was being held pending his next arraignment. Another death was reported in the area just 2 days after his escape, but it's unclear if he committed the latest murder, as he is still at large.
Long faces, apprehensive and uncertain of what the future holds for their communities. Seated here are friends and relatives who are still mourning the loss of loved ones. Within 2 weeks in the month of May, 6 people were murdered in cold blood in their homes and places of worship, all within Akinyele local government. The police made headway on July the 17th when 3 suspects were paraded in connection with the murders. 19-year-old Sunday Shodikbe was at the center of it all, as he confesses to killing 6 people, narrating how he went about the killings.
Before going to kill people, I reported the herbalist who prepares me for my mission by chanting incantations on me and applying a substance on my tongue 3 times. It tells me the rites to perform once I kill my victims and asks me to wait 5 minutes after killing them. I have killed in 6 different places.
On Thursday, 11th of August, the suspect escaped from police custody. 2 days after, on Thursday, 13th, another woman was killed in the same area. On Sunday, 16th of August, the police issued a release that Sunday had escaped from their custody at Mokola police station, where he was being held in compliance with court directives. This raises tension in the town as community leaders eventually meet with the government and security agencies to find a way out of the chaos. Fears are growing that the killer is on the loose to prey on innocent people. Another case of murder will be totally unacceptable to the government, hence a manhunt.
Is death too many in Akinyele? The last one was preventable. if that suspect had not escaped. So His Excellency had given the marching order, just as the state gave the security agencies, the police, all the wherewithal, the tools to apprehend that suspect in the first case. So also is the governor deploying all whatever that is necessary, all the enablement that will make them to succeed.
A tactical team of police officers has been deployed, but with a warning. Residents must not take the laws into their hands.
When they see him, they should arrest and immediately hand him over to the police.
This comes as youth groups within the state have threatened to begin series of protests by the end of the month if the suspect is not apprehended, at a time seen by many as critical in a race to protect the vulnerable.
Away from security matters, the Nigerian Bar Association has removed the governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, as one of its speakers for its annual general conference holding from August the 26th to the 29th. At the virtual National Executive Committee meeting of the association today, participants voted and passed a resolution that the invitation extended to the governor by the conference's Technical Planning Committee be withdrawn and same be communicated to the governor. The resolution follows the petition written and signed by a group, the Open Bar Initiative, which gathered over 1,700 signatures of lawyers. In the petition, the group cited alleged human rights violation records of the governor, particularly the killings in southern Kaduna, where it claimed that 493 people have been killed by Fulani herdsmen. Meanwhile, Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State has been responding to the controversial protest by lawyers over the invitation extended to him by the Nigerian Bar Association. In a statement by the Special Advisor to Governor El-Rufai on Media and Communication, Muyiwa Adekeye, accepting the invite was part of Governor El-Rufai's commitment to having a national conversation and the evolution of a national consensus. Accepting that while the decision about who speaks at its event is clearly the prerogative of the NBA, Governor El-Rufai wishes to make it clear that he did not seek the platform and is not agitated that he has one less speaking engagement. The statement also added that Governor El-Rufai finds it worrisome that a professional organization has chosen to endorse a one-sided narrative on profound national issues and is something that its members may wish to reflect upon, stressing that defamatory statements in the petition is another matter entirely, one which the governor will address soon enough. And the dust raised by the amendments on the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 is still generating concern, and this time the Christian Association of Nigeria has outrightly rejected the regulation. According to the leadership of CAN, the law would snuff life out of the church and rank it as a secular institution under secular control. CAN, in a statement, notes that it amounts to a declaration of war on the church if the federal government moves on to implement the law. The Umbrella Christian Association questions some provisions of the law, saying, how can the government sack the trustee of a church which it contributed no dime to establish? How can a secular and political minister be the final authority on the affairs and management of another institution which is not political? The body goes on to suggest, let the government face the business of providing infrastructure for the people. Let them focus on better health provision, food, education, and adequate security employment. President Muhammadu Buhari had on August the 7th signed into law the Companies and Allied Matters Bill 2020, which has been passed by the National Assembly. In part two, after the break, suspended chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Magus, writes to the Salami panel probing activities of the commission under his watch, demands for copies of the petitions against him. That's in a moment. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Comptroller General of Customs Service Hamid Ali warns that recently signed WTO agreement and Africa Free Trade Agreement will adversely affect the country's revenue generation drive in the coming years. Federal government approves 13.3 billion naira for takeoff of community policing initiative across the country. Number of COVID-19 cases in Nigeria passes the 50,000 mark, with many health workers among the casualties. And Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny remains unconscious in hospital, suffering from suspected poisoning at an airport cafe. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories. Do subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or you can download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android, Fire TV, and Roku as well. The suspended chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Magus, is not giving up on his request for a fair hearing. Mr. Magus, through his lawyers, has once again written to the chairman of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry probing him and the affairs of the commission, asking for the copies of documents so far tendered against him by those who have appeared before the commission. In the letter, Mr. Magus is demanding that
the help of government. Notably among it is the encroachment of our local people on our right of way, our pipelines right of way. This, of course, Your Excellency, is quite very, very scary and dangerous thing. Knowing fully well where hydrocarbons are flowing up and down, people building houses, markets, and all sorts of things on even the pipelines themselves. And this is really quite a very dangerous thing, and the safety cannot be overemphasized.
Governor Wike, in company of some members of the State Executive Council, laments the poor state of road leading to the company and expresses displeasure at the company's lack of support in the fight against COVID-19 in Rivers State.
Just in front of your house, he expects the state government to come and do that aspect of the road. And I said, look, of all the whole thing, now that you are budgeting for this, why not include that year front? I mean, that will not cost you much to repair the road. Nobody will be happy with what's going on in the country and all over the world. Look at all of us, we are wearing masks. Is it very conducive for you? No. So please, to start a very cordial relationship, go and support us for COVID-19 fight. Whatever you can do, donate. Whether it is bed, whether it is mask, whether it is whatever. So then we will now know that, yes, we have a good relationship. And if anything happens to you tomorrow, we will come. We will support you.
The visit is to further strengthen the relationship between the Rivers State government and organizations operating in the state. Jeffrey Uzongo, Channels Television News.
When the news at 10 returns, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation targets 19 trillion naira revenue in 3 years. That's on Business News. Do join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. The People's Democratic Party says it's changing the narrative of politics in Nigeria, where campaign promises made to the people will be promises kept. And this comes as the PDP campaign trail enters Uromi, it's a northeast local government area of Edo State. While asking party faithful across various wards to vote massively for Governor Godwin Obaseki on September the 19th, party leaders also paid tribute to former PDP national leader, Chief Anthony Aneni.
A sea of PDP umbrellas greet the governor of Edo State on his arrival at the palace of the Onoji of Uromi. In what has been the order of protocol in this electioneering campaign across the state, the PDP campaign team is here to receive support and royal blessings.
You have tarred over 10 roads in Urum. You brought School of Agriculture to Urum. You are doing water project for us in Urum. So we have no reason not to say thank you to you.
At different wards, the focus is on achievements by the present administration and the need for Governor Obaseki to continue in office for another 4 years.
He was our leader. He led us well.
No political campaign in Uromi can be said to be complete without the mention of the late Tony Aneni, former national leader of the PDP.
We cannot come here without saying this. He was our leader. He led us well. We were his followers. And for us, all of us that he led, we will not respect anybody who disrespected him.
And for the PDP's flag bearer, the governorship poll, his brand of politics is based on integrity and not empty promises.
Only promise what you can do. So all the things I have told you, there are not many. To us, light, electricity. Water, education, youth and women empowerment. Those ones we already have started, we have the plan, and we will continue.
The preparation towards a victory at the Edo governorship election is on course, according to the PDP. They believe that meeting the electorate in their wards will guarantee their votes on election day.
Away from politics and the campaign trail, the Comptroller General of the Nigeria Customs Service, Hamid Ali, is warning that the WTO agreement and the Africa Free Trade Agreement recently signed by Nigeria will adversely affect Nigeria's revenue generation drive in the coming years. The customs boss gave this warning during the continuation of an interactive session organized by the Senate Joint Committees on Finance and National Planning on the 2021-2023 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and the Fiscal Strategy Paper. He says the two agreements will allow goods to come into Nigeria at zero tariffs. Our correspondent Linda Akigbe reports.
It's a continuation of the interaction between the Senate Joint Committee on Finance and National Planning with heads of federal government agencies. The discussion centers on the 2021 to 2023 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework (MTEF) and the role of revenue-generating agencies in meeting revenue targets to address the deficit in the budget. COVID-19 dealt a huge blow to the global economy, and Nigeria was not spared as crude oil prices crashed as low as $10 per barrel, resulting in dwindling revenue for the country.
There's no gainsaying that we need a lot more resources because we have more challenges.
The Nigeria Customs Service, a critical revenue-generating agency, says it has generated 837 billion naira as at July 2020 and hopes to generate a total revenue of 1.465 trillion naira in 2021, as well as 1.704 trillion and 1.756 trillion naira in 2022 and 2023 respectively. The customs boss is, however, worried about some of the agreements Nigeria entered into and its implications for revenue generation.
The WTO trade agreement, which is tagged as FTA, that is going to adversely affect the revenue we generate from import. So some of the goods that will be imported into Nigeria will come in at zero duty. Secondly, we have also signed the African Free Trade Area Agreement. That has come into effect, and that will have an adverse effect on revenue we generate from intertrade within Africa.
The committee took the NNPC to task on reports of the missing 48 million barrels of oil and the high cost of production of crude compared to some other oil-producing countries.
There's nothing like 48 million barrels missing oil. If you want to corroborate or validate that, you have the right to call on DPR. They are the regulator of the industry. That's one. Two, no molecule, no ship leaves the country without clearance from the Navy. So that's another second resource you can verify.
Committee members are also kicking against the projections by the Federal Inland Revenue Service of 500 billion naira as expected revenue from stamp duties collection in the 2021 budget. The committee insisted that the figure is grossly underestimated and is calling for a review of the current projection. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
Buba Group, a leading conglomerate in foods, mining and manufacturing, has donated 3 fully kitted state-of-the-art ambulances to the Abia State government in support of the state's COVID-19 response and in line with the group's commitment to fighting the pandemic through its various intervention efforts. In his address at the presentation ceremony at the Abia State Government House, the representative of the chairman of Buba Group, Ibrahim Lire, says the move is aimed at supporting the Abia State government in its fight against the pandemic.
As part of our corporate social responsibility, we have decided as Buba Group, through our Buba Foundation, to partner with the federal government and the state government to support the fight against this pandemic. We know that it is a fight that everybody has to join hand to support its fight. That is why we have donated ambulances. We have also made donations in cash and kind to the federal government, to the state government, to support them in the fight against the COVID-19. My chairman also asked me to congratulate you for surviving the COVID-19 infection.
Receiving the donation, Governor Okeze Ikpazu appreciates the Buba Group for its show of love and care for the average Nigerian since the outbreak of the pandemic and described the donation as timely.
On behalf of the government and people of Abia State, I wish to thank you and express our heartfelt gratitude for this timely intervention regarding our efforts to battle COVID-19, not only in Abia but in Nigeria. I want to publicly declare that Buba has shown empathy. Buba has shown how much love and care he has for the average Nigerians. My promise is that this ambulance, 3 of them will be put into very, very good use to reach the hinterlands and the local governments. As I speak today, we have started community testing in Abia. We have trickled down our COVID-19 committees to the local governments, and it is so that we can engage the ordinary persons on the streets on why and how we must fight COVID-19 going forward.
The president of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria has called on the federal government to consolidate and to consider granting a waiver of personal income tax. While speaking at the opening ceremony of the council retreat and meeting of the members of the council of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, the president of the institute said the waiver will help reduce the heightened financial burden as a result of the coronavirus pandemic.
All seated in observance of the COVID-19 protocol.
Top officials of the Institute of Taxation of Nigeria gather in this hall for a 3-day retreat. The issues are many, from formulation of policies to assist the government in revenue generation to the challenge of the coronavirus pandemic. For the president of the institute, precision is key.
Internationally, we are affiliated to WATAF, to ETAF, to WAUTI, to GTAF, to CFE. All the exchange of information that we get from them, how are we applying them to our own situations in Nigeria, in Africa? These are the things that we need to look at.
Buttressing the point, the Vice President of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria reminded members that much more is expected from them in these trying times.
We are all living witnesses to the COVID-19 pandemic and the fact that we now call it even the new normal. The new normal is a situation where we don't even need to see physically in order to have a productive meeting. The new normal is the understanding of technology for even some service deliveries like the mandatory professional program. Because what makes a professional is his knowledge and understanding of the skills of it that is required in his profession.
Solutions are already being preferred at the end of day one of the 3-day program. One cardinal point made by the president of the Association of National Accountants of Nigeria is the need to interface with the government as a strategy that must be sustained. A waiver of personal income tax was also advised by the CITN president to mitigate the current situation in the economy.
What the institute is insisting is that you must be trained personnel that has the capacity to understand the basis of taxation, and that way you find out that the officials will not defraud the government.
We can't forgo this year, tax this year, forgo it for now. When things change next year, now we can start to say, okay, those things that we didn't do, let us start to do them now.
For participants here, the next 3 days will be crucial to bring up a resolution to ultimately foster gains for the government and the country as a whole.
Let's take a look at some business now, and here's Anne Wilder.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Ijoma. Hello and welcome to Business News. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, the NNPC, says it will be targeting to generate a total revenue of 19.5 trillion naira within the next 3 years. The NNPC made this known at an interactive session organized by the Senate Joint Committee on Finance and National Planning on 2021 to 2023 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. According to its revenue projections for the 3-year period, the state oil firm says that it expects to generate 5.6 trillion naira in 2021, 6.57 trillion naira in 2022, and 7.37 trillion naira in 2023. And let's head to the Nigerian stock market, where the third day of the week has maintained a positive momentum, ending today's trading session with 0.13% increase in overall performance. But let's hear more from Temple Ashaju.
Thank you for joining us again on the Stock Market Report. It's another session of positive close at the equity market, as the all-share index has now seemingly consolidated at 25,000 reading, following the last sessions of gains in stocks with uptrend. Now, the index today advanced by 13 basis points as a result of interest in the consumer goods space and, of course, the major banking names. The sustained interest in international breweries also boosted the sector in the lead, while investors took profit on most of the stocks that declined today in value. Now, the news box of the stock exchange reveals some activities in the insurance sector, as Lasaco Insurance turns in its audited 20 2019 financial results and offers to pay investors 5 kobo in dividend. While Consolidated Hallmark today listed over 2 billion shares after a successful rights issue, bringing its total issued and fully paid up shares to over 10.7 billion ordinary shares of 50 kobo each. And that's your stock market report. I'm Temple Ashaju.
Thanks for watching Business News. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Ijoma.
Thanks a lot, Anne. President Muhammadu Buhari is joining other world leaders in calling for the immediate release of the recently ousted president of Mali, Ibrahim Keita, who resigned after being detained by the country's military on Tuesday. The detention of the president and the Prime Minister Bubu Sise at a military camp near the country's capital Bamako has drawn condemnation from countries around the world. President Buhari added his voice to the calls for Mr. Keita's release while delivering his speech at the virtual extraordinary session of the Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government, which he joined from the State House in Abuja. While commending the interventions of ECOWAS, he was quick to state that the negotiations had failed and supported sanctions currently placed on the country by ECOWAS. The Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny is said to be currently unconscious in hospital after suffering a suspected case of poisoning. He reportedly fell ill during a flight and the plane had to make an emergency landing. Here's Simon Pusey with more on this and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Russian opposition activist Alexei Navalny is unconscious in hospital after suffering from suspected poisoning. Mr. Navalny is an outspoken critic of the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and he was returning to Moscow by plane from Tomsk in Siberia when he began to feel ill. The plane made an emergency landing and he was taken to hospital. According to his press secretary, he is now in a coma. Doctors have not confirmed that Mr. Navalny was poisoned, although the hospital declared that they had received test results and made a diagnosis. Kamala Harris has accepted her historic nomination as the U.S. Democratic Party's vice presidential candidate, running with Joe Biden for the White House.
I accept your nomination for vice president of the United States.
In a speech to her party convention, the first U.S. woman of color on a major party ticket attacked President Donald Trump's failure of leadership.
And let's be clear, there is no vaccine for racism. We've got to do the work for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor, for the lives of too many others to name, for our children, and for all of us.
Another eagerly awaited speaker was former President Barack Obama, who delivered a stinging discourse accusing Mr. Trump not to have any interest in preserving the U.S. democracy.
For close to 4 years now, he has shown no interest in putting in the work. No interest in finding common ground. No interest in using the awesome power of his office to help anyone but himself and his friends. No interest in treating the presidency as anything but one more reality show that he can use to get the attention he craves. Donald Trump hasn't grown into the job because he can't. And the consequences of that failure are severe. 170,000 Americans dead. Millions of jobs gone, while those at the top take in more than ever. Our worst impulses unleashed. Our proud reputation around the world badly diminished.
In the UK, the brother of the Manchester Arena bomber has been jailed for at least 55 years for the murders of 22 people in May 2017. Hashem Abedi helped his older sibling, Salman, to plan the attack that killed 22 people and injured hundreds more on May the 22nd, 2017, at the end of a concert by Ariana Grande. He was convicted after a court heard he was just as guilty as his brother, who detonated the bomb. Abedi, who had travelled to Libya before the bombing, was arrested shortly after the terror attack and extradited back to the UK to face trial. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has met Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg for closed-door talks at Berlin's Chancellery. The 17-year-old and a group of youth climate activists delivered a petition to the Chancellor, signed by 125,000 people, demanding EU leaders halt all investments into fossil fuel exploration and extraction.
To treat the climate crisis like...
Thunberg recently accused European leaders of political inaction to save the environment. The United Nations has joined a global condemnation of the military takeover in Mali, which saw President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta forced to resign. The UN's Security Council echoed similar calls by regional bodies for the immediate release of all government officials and the restoration of constitutional order. It's as Malian Army Colonel Assimi Goïta presented himself as head of the junta that ousted Mali's president. He is one of 5 military officers who announced this week's coup on the state broadcaster. Lightning strikes have sparked dozens of wildfires in Northern California in the United States, forcing thousands to flee their homes. Local authorities reported the state was hit by nearly 11,000 lightning strikes in 72 hours, sparking 367 fires, as the state suffered a record heat wave. Authorities have also reported a pilot of a helicopter fighting the fires has died after his aircraft crashed. And finally, a British inventor has achieved a Guinness World Record for the fastest electric ice cream van by reaching a speed of just over 70 miles per hour in his eco-friendly vehicle. It's taken Ed China over 2 years to electrify his van, which originally had a diesel engine. Mr. China created a conversion kit for ice cream vans to move from diesel to electric to help combat emissions. He scooped the speed of almost 74 miles per hour and celebrated afterwards by posing for pictures with his certificate and, of course, eating an ice cream. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Hello and welcome to Sports News. Nigeria's men's senior basketball team, the Tigers, will begin the journey to the 2021 FIBA AfroBasket when they play the first round of qualifiers in November. The 20 teams participating in the qualifiers are grouped into 5 groups of 4 teams each. Nigeria is in Group D alongside Rwanda, Mali, and Algeria. The Oyo State government has begun the remodeling of the Lagos Salami Sports Complex in Ibadan by upgrading its capacity from 8,000 to 10,000. The state governor, Seyi Makinde, who flagged up the project at the main bowl of the stadium, assured them that his administration will match policies with action. President Muhammadu Buhari has appointed former Super Eagles forward Daniel Amokachi as his special assistant on sports. According to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, the appointment takes immediate effect. And that's it on Sports News. Ijoma, back to you.
Thanks, Olumide. And the main news again. The federal government today approved 13.3 billion naira for the takeoff of the community policing initiative across the country. The decision was taken at the virtual meeting of the National Economic Council, chaired by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Also today, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 confirmed that the number of cases in Nigeria has passed the 50,000 mark, as announced by the NCDC. And suspected chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Magus, writes to the Judicial Commission of Inquiry probing him, demanding a fair hearing. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Bunyato. Do have a good night.